In the entire span of making this film, this could be the most important scene or the most important piece of information, the most important moment. It may not be dramatic in construct. This is cinema verite. I simply point the camera and shoot without regard for any aesthetic composition. I'm here to deliver information. Today is January the 15th. It's actually the 16th. It's probably around midnight now. That's a pillow. Today, in about approximately 10 hours, my house goes to sheriff's sale. This long 6-year road has ended in defeat, apparently. Well, fuck that. No, it's not. No, it's not. The entire sale is based on fraud of a level so intricate, I'll probably cut right here to a summary of why it's bullshit. But so let's presume or take as an affirmation, like all well pled complaints are, as these things being true. So A, it's being sold tomorrow. B, it isn't going to happen. C, why? Because it's based on bullshit. D, how am I stopping it? With filing an voluntary bankruptcy involuntarily as a human being, because the only way I can obtain an automatic stay to stop this fucking lunacy is by declaring bankruptcy. So that is what I intend to do tonight, and I will do it electronically. I just got my Pacer account. And I'm also going to notify the court of my intention. My intention is to, in coordination with this bankruptcy chapter, I was going to do chapter 13, but then strategically I realized that chapter 7 was better. I'll probably cut right now to this and explain why that worked. Okay, back. So I filed a chapter by myself without my wife, Tanisha. I filed chapter 7. I'm going to file chapter 7. I'm going to stop the sale by an automatic stay, which is, the nuclear option, the last thing you can do. And you probably say, how the fuck did you get this position? You were on top the whole time, or you said you were on top the whole time. You said you were beating and kicking their ass the whole time. Well, I was kicking their ass the whole time. And I'll cut to this to explain how I was. But the point is, because of corruption and systemic apathy and inefficiency and error and mistake and just the general malaise of the court, as well as what I think is rude corruption by certain individuals or entities. The fact is, I got put in a position where I am now. But the great part is, it's like jiu-jitsu. By filing chapter 7, I am going to list them as an unsecured asset. Therefore, under chapter 7, unlike chapter 13, which would have set up a payment plan to pay certain debts, this would seek to discharge all debts that are unsecured. You say, well, it's a mortgage. It is secured. No, it's not. It was secured, but then they sold it and they divorced it or bifurcated the security, the mortgage, the house, the collateral, with the note, the negotiable instrument that they sold to Wall Street. It's in trust, the Lehman Brothers, Sasco, for excess. I don't know what tranche it was in, but hey, it was securitized, and that's a given. I found the assignment. Now, they've been lying the whole time. It's been probably sold and rehypothecated a fucking dozen times. It's like a bad girl at a wildfire party. Let's put it that way. Who is getting a lot of kisses. Let's put it that way. It's fucked up. And on a moral level, on a financial level, on a legal level, on a personal level. And that's why I'm making this film, because this shit's going to stop. Because the idea that's happening to me, who has a wife who is a lawyer, has an MBA, and I am not stupid, and I've been working on this full time for 6 years, and I have to actually go to this length because there's not one fucking, in our transcript, we're going to do an appeal. We've appealed this. Despite this going to sale, we're having an appeal. Even though you should theoretically not have your house sold while you're appealing, you have to. That's an extraordinary remedy and relief you have to ask for. So, fuck that. Cut to that. How that's crazy. But back to this. Violations of due process everywhere. Here we are facing the loss of our house, and we don't have one fucking piece of information on the record. Not one piece of evidence that has been proffered by the plaintiff in meeting its burden of proof. Not one record or accounting of the mispayment or the deficiency or the amount of money asked for. The judgments for $720,000. I borrowed $600 and I paid 5 years, $6,000 a month, so about $300,000. I basically paid half the debt back. So instead of me owing $300 or $400, maybe even $500 with interest, I owe $720. Yeah, I really do. And how did they achieve that? By court order, by trial, by judicial vigor, and by due process? No, they walked into the Prothonotary's office, which is like a fucking overpaid clerk who doesn't have a law degree, and she signed or he signed something, and they got basically $1 million through the sale, right, to sell my home, without any paperwork. For my appeal, I don't have a transcript, not one fucking hearing. I didn't spend one fucking minute in that fucking, repeat, did not spend one fucking day in a courtroom. and face the loss of my home. That's due process. I do not have one piece of evidence on the record, evidentiary record, meaning the rules of evidence, by the plaintiff who has the burden of proof to show. All I have, actually, is the fact that I have an assignment where they sold it. I show they have no standing. I show who owns it now. I show the beginning of this clouded chain of title, where it emanated from my signature as credit, not as money lent, to be securitized on Wall Street, to be monetized on Wall Street. In fact, that's what the loan's all about. The loan is a monetization event where the signature, my signature, creates an instrument, a piece of paper, a note, that is therefore sold on a secondary market. Without that sale, there is no monetization. It's a cash flow. It's a contract. It's money coming in from me. They could keep it that way, but they don't want that. They want to get paid, they want to get paid X on the dollar for that total sum value of that instrument, which is a 30-year instrument at 6.25%. But then this is where the fucking crazy part comes in. It's not that. It is a front-loaded fucking usurious loan where you're paying 180% interest in year one, you're paying 107% interest, 508% interest year one, 107% interest in year five. When you're paying 6.25% the 30th fucking year, the last year. And you look at an amortization table and you say, well, maybe that's the math. Maybe that's how it has to happen. Fuck it. I can show you 8 ways to Sunday how that's not true and how you can get to the same fucking fixed payment to the penny, and the ratio between equity and debt, or debt service and equity building or ownership, is equitable and fair and reasonable. I can show it to you a couple ways to do it. Ones that benefit the banker still, but still don't disadvantage the homeowner. The way they're fucked now at 580%. Usury, 6% is the law. 580, 6% is the law. 580 is the reality. That's why they offer to refinance every 5 years. You think they're doing that because they like you? Because they're in love with you? Because they're trying to get you to, wake up. What company, what business ever comes to you and offers you their product or their service at a lower rate or for a lower price? Why? How's it in their interest as a profit-making entity in a capitalistic system? It doesn't. So why are they fucking refinancing? Why are they calling you and saying, we like to get you from 6.5% to 5.2%? And you're like, hey, honey, I got us down low. And you feel like you're badass and you're NoHo, and I got, we're going to pay less. But, so that's a great thing, right? Okay, well, it's not a great thing because what you'll be paying is the same amount of money, or maybe perhaps a little bit less. But you will have, this is negligible, but less of a deduction for interest on your taxes. But more importantly, what you're paying is you're going from being a 30-year loan to a 40 or 50-year loan. Because what you're doing is you're keeping that payment or getting a little lower, but your ratio of equity building to debt service is going to reset. So if you're at year 5 paying 107% interest and they refinance you, you go back to 580, meaning of each payment you make that's fixed, the ratio of equity building or ownership versus the ratio of repayment of 30 years worth of accumulated debt through interest, meaning besides the principal. So if over 30 years on 600 grand at 6.2%, you owe 750 grand in interest, and that's legitimate and they deserve that. That's fine. Well, instead of just dividing that by 360, like you divide the principal, they come to a simple amortization ratio. That's easy, right? 360 payments, the principal plus the interest due in 30 years at that rate, 6.25% equals what? It's like $1.3 million, okay? It's like a $3,600 payment. 3601, I don't even know. The point is this. That ratio can be tweaked to the either fairness of the two parties or to not the gross disadvantage we have now. Now it's a fucking joke, and I will show it to you cutting here. So that's it. That's my fucking story. And I'm about to end it just by saying this thing not only ends here, meaning this fucking, I'm not going to have the sale. I'm in appeal. This thing is going to start to get resolved in one way or the other. But more than that is the beginning of a bankruptcy suit, which I can't do an adversarial proceeding because it's not Chapter 13, but I'm going to, in lieu of that, do a federal lawsuit that simply attacks someone for every fucking thing I've just said in this movie. Which is they did this wrong, that wrong, fraud, wrongful foreclosure, unjust enrichment, RICO. I mean, ready, cut to all the shit they did here. Bam. So that's my fucking movie. My movie is about the greatest crime that's ever been committed in the history of America, which is the origination, execution, monetization, concealment, uh, collusion, conspiracy to set up a mortgage loan system where debt is created at thin air at no risk to the banks and rehypothecated into Wall Street on instruments that are insured, that when they went underwater became paid off, and when sold became detached from the original servicer or originator, who, presenting themselves in court as a plaintiff, is committing a fraud because they know damn right well that they don't own the paper. Why they don't just have the owner of the paper come up and step up and do it? Well, sometimes it seems they do now as plaintiffs, but they didn't for me, and they twice didn't do it, so they couldn't go back and say they lied. So maybe that's why. The point is, once you start a lie, you got to keep going, sort of. That's what Chase. I think the moral of the story is that I'll beat Chase because of reality and truth and evidence, but more importantly because once you start a lie, you keep having to do them, and I think they'll be buried by their lies once I finally get through this. I think they'll be fucking buried. And I think someone will be in jail, and hopefully I'll get a lot of money, not for me, not because I want to buy a fucking Ferrari, but because I want to set up a way for people to be protected from this so it doesn't happen to anyone again, unless they have a legitimate mortgage, a legitimate default without a securitization where the burden of proof has been met by the plaintiff. I just want due process on both sides of the table. Is that so fucking wrong? Is that so much to ask?